All right. Good morning, good afternoon for everybody joining today. This is my first webinar, so I'm used to meeting everybody live. So I hope that today we get a chance to share with everyone a little bit of what we're working on and what's to come. Thank you for making the time. I'm Roni Bahar, co-founder and CEO of Nabr. Joining me today is a few members of our team, including my co-founders, Bjarke Ingels and Nick, who's also joining from San Francisco. We are actually in New York at the big offices in Brooklyn. So wherever you are, thank you again for making the time. And we hope today to give you a quick presentation of what we're working on, what's to come, why we're doing this, and answer some questions that many of you have submitted through this process. To be sensitive to everybody's time, because I'm sure some of you are either taking your own personal time to do this. Again, thank you, and we'll get going now. So, so Nabr. So what do we mean when we say a people first housing company to start with? This idea of a people first housing company is not just about the consumer, it's for all the stakeholders that are involved, be our supply chain, the local community. How do you build a development company that really takes into consideration everybody's input and thinks about a building that's going to meet the standard for 100 years? And when we started this, imagine we started this business in the midst of COVID. So everybody said, why would you start an urban product? Now, nobody's coming back to cities. We really believe that this is where we need to put our effort into, and knowing that the process of finding, buying, financing a home is very difficult. We wanted to set up a course to really make this feel like an entire true product, which I will share more about. The most important thing, setting up a development company or product company is going to be our values. And as we thought about these values, the real estate industry as a whole has one of the lowest NPS scores possible. People do not trust any part of this process, and it's extremely convoluted and complex. For us, the first thing was integrity. We want you to know that everything that we do and how we approach our problems with true integrity and transparency in the process. And this is why we set this course to be a consumer-led company. The second thing is quality. There is no compromise on quality when this is the most important purchase that you are going to make. Yes, you can make a cheaper product, but it has to be still at the standards of quality across everything that we touch. And the last one is sustainability. Not only because it's extremely important from what is right to do for our planet, but also that we see that sustainable buildings are going to be more valuable over time. So a little bit of a background and why we chose to build apartments for ownership in the urban core. So most people don't understand that less than 2% of new construction in the United States of America is apartments for ownership. We are very good at building single-family homes, and we build over 1.2 million of them annually. 95% of those houses are built for sale. This is why you can always buy a house. There's plenty of them. The barrier of entry is fairly low, and we've been expanding horizontally for a long time. On the multifamily, as it's called in our industry, or apartment buildings, it's the mirror opposite. We're building 95% of that product for rent. And this is why most people live in suburbia, live temporarily in the city and move back to suburbia, because there is no inventory available and the prices only get higher and higher over time. So we saw where the biggest opportunity to work with consumers directly is going to be this one. And there's many variables to this that come into play, because we do believe that densification is a key for quality of life for everyone. And just to give some context for this number, we build more in Toronto apartments than we do in the entire United States combined annually for ownership. So a little bit of what is Nabr. We don't see ourselves as a normal development company, and we're building very unique tools that align the interest of everybody involved. So the first one is that we build to demand. This is why this process, we go out to an area, we connect with consumers directly. We want to understand what they're looking for, where do they want to live, what price points we need to be at, what kind of size apartments they're looking for, how do they need to pay for it. And this is our initial approach as a consumer-led company. So we build to demand. This also de-risks the process of real estate development and enable us to have better access to financing to lower costs for consumers. The next step is how we approach design. When we say productized design, we don't see that as a modular or not modular. We actually think about what can we do from a productization when it comes to the process to make it easy, everything from contracts, online, and so on. But also, as a building, how do we create constraints for a product that provides us enormous flexibility to respond to the local architecture and give people what they're looking for, where they live inside the home, not outside, and optionality. And we've been working on this system for almost 2 years now, and super excited to launch it in San Jose. The last thing is digital deployment to connecting essentially our consumers with the supply chain. The center, as you see as Nabr, we call it the place of truth, where all the stakeholders from your input down to the drawings, down to connecting to our supply chain to operation, all live in a digital twin process that we've been creating. This creates a virtuous cycle. So when everybody is working to optimize for the same goal, there's constant improvement in quality, in pricing, in speed, and we are able to constantly look at that input to improve the process so we can scale and bring our product to other places. So how does Nabr work? For you as a consumer, it's quite simple. We have a video on our website, which I'm going to share in a second, but we wanted to make it easy for you where you can forecast and lock in your price in advance, continuously be able to design and make your choices until you actually purchase. So the process is fairly risk-free, and the more support we have from consumers, the more access we have to be able to build more in those locations that they're looking for.
The home buying process can be daunting, but we've made it simple. Hi, we're Nabr, a people-first housing company. We build sustainable apartments in walkable, vibrant cities. With Nabr, you can buy an extraordinary home that you can customize and own on your terms. It just takes 6 simple steps. Step 1, introduce yourself. Create a profile with your home preferences on nabr.com. Step 2, explore designs. Use our virtual design studio to favorite interior design packages and features that will make your space feel like yours. Step 3, reserve your home and lock in a price with a refundable fee, up to 1% of your home's value. Step 4, choose how you pay. You can buy a Nabr home with a conventional mortgage or through LEAP, our lease to purchase program. Step 5, make it official. Check out a 3D model of your home, and if you like, consult with a design advisor to confirm your upgrades. Then commit to a contract and pay a non-refundable deposit. In the meantime, we'll be busy building Nabr apartments, including your new home just as you imagined it. Step 6, move in. If you have questions along the way, don't worry. Nabr will be with you at every step until you're the proud owner of a home you love. You deserve to love where you live. Get started today at nabr.com.
Before I pass the baton to Bjarke to talk about design, there's 3 important more points we want to make. One, and we've said this publicly, so it's kind of obvious, we do not own real estate. We have no intention in owning the real estate. If we own the real estate, then we optimize for appreciation, which means that prices will increase all the time, and our product will become less and less attainable. So we are aligned with our consumers and our supply chain to deliver product. The next part is that we do not own any factories. We partner with the supply chain to deliver the best quality product, therefore partnering with labor and great manufacturers all around the country to deliver you the best product and improve from time to time. And the last thing is we are a direct-to-consumer company. It means you're buying our product directly from us. With that, I'm going to pass it to Bjarke, and we'll continue after that with Nick, and then move to Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. A little bit about the Nabr design and where it came from, and you can say as an architect, you know, I've had this sort of pleasure and luxury to work with some of the most interesting and most brilliant people and most brilliant companies in the world. Like for instance, we've designed the home of the Lego brick with Lego. We've been working with Roni Bahar, the chef of Noma, to imagine the future of the sort of gastronomical experience. We've designed to imagine the future learning environment for universities and colleges and high schools across the world, both in Europe and the United States. We've designed museums for art, commemorating a war, the world of shipping, the world of timekeeping. We've designed an art museum that functions like a bridge, taking the museum goers from one side of the river across to the other. And we've designed a waste to energy power plant that also doubles as the tallest climbing wall in the world, and a man-made ski slope. So you could say that all of these projects are essentially trying to push the boundaries of what we imagine our built environment can do for us, and what kind of world we want to live in. But you can say at its core, architecture is the art and science of creating the framework, accommodating the life that we would like to live. And in no place is that more crucial than when we are designing for the places where we actually live, our homes. And we've been pursuing this for 2 decades. At the smallest scales, in this case, a small off-grid cabin that you can place anywhere in the world that will sort of be self-sustained. We've been creating floating student homes in my native hometown of Copenhagen. We've tried to imagine multi-family homes at various scales, like in the case of the VM house in Copenhagen, sort of trying to expand the social life of the private balcony as far as possible, to create a kind of vertical community and a great diversity of homes. People are different. That's why our homes should also be different. We've tried to combine a parking structure and an apartment building to create essentially a man-made mountains of homes, where the parking becomes the bedrock, lifting the homes up and allowing us to create houses with gardens, but in the middle of the dense city and with the views of a penthouse. We've created the 8 house, or the Infinity Loop in Copenhagen, where we combine townhouses with gardens where you can walk and bicycle, where we essentially invite the social life of the street to ascend all the way to the penthouse, creating this kind of community in the vertical dimension. In the port of Amsterdam, we have built the Sluishuis, which is a city block that opens up to allow the port to continue inside, so you can actually sail your boat into the courtyard of the building itself. In Denmark, we've designed a series of affordable homes where we use the power of modular and prefabrication to provide the highest quality of living at the most attainable cost. You can see the stacking of the modules actually produces a diversity of ceiling heights. So you actually have almost palatial ceiling heights in some of the homes. Even this is actually housing for that is affordable. In Sweden, we have used the modular as a way to create a freedom, where we imagine a city block as again as this kind of cascade or hillside of terraces, using renewable materials like locally sourced timber to create a sort of warm and friendly environment and provide as much outdoor enjoyment, even though you're living in a city. In the city of Aarhus, we have created a mixture of the most intimate scale, like a series of urban cabins that provide a sort of a small scale liveliness on the waterfront itself, using a prefabricated timber, combined with this kind of more sort of majestic scale of terraced apartments that also use like the most simple and most blatant techniques to create almost like a loft-like experience on the waterfront of Aarhus. And of course, a decade ago, we started taking some of these experiments to the US. One example is the Court Scraper in New York that combines the communal space of the European courtyard with the verticality and the density of a Manhattan skyscraper. Maybe lastly, the last 8 years, I've been going regularly to the Bay Area because we've been working with Google to imagine their future work environment using photovoltaic panels, like a form of dragon scales that not only are the facade of the building, but also produce its power. The catenary curves of the roof is the most materially efficient way to make long spans, so reducing the amount of steel that goes into the building, and then working with mass timber to reduce the embodied carbon footprint. And this sort of almost decade-long collaboration with Google brought me into contact with my two co-founders, with Nick and his software background. He invited us to work with him to try to teach artificial intelligence and algorithms to do the work of an architect. And with Roni, I started having conversations about using the power of productization and technology to provide homes attainably at scale to the many. And so we basically sort of founded Nabr on this sort of understanding that we need to update the way we build our homes. And we really want to use the power of productization because it's very clear that the things we make many of, like products, let's say like smartphones or televisions or washing machines or cars, they become better and better and better at a more and more attainable cost. If you look at like construction, essentially needs to become like manufacturing. Over the last 2.5 decades, the productivity of manufacturing in the United States has almost doubled, whereas in construction it has almost flatlined. So construction needs to become like manufacturing. That means that rather than being stuck with the standard materials, we can sort of start really sort of funneling more and more sustainable materials into the building industry, including mass timber. And we can also keep increasing the quality of our buildings, like you see in products. So rather than just throwing out 30-year buildings, we can actually create 100-year buildings with kind of lasting qualities, a bit like we know it from the Soho loft, essentially buildings that have been built more than 100 years ago for manufacturing, but of such a quality that we today actually see them as great buildings for living in. So the basic idea has been to, with the first building type, we're putting out the Nabr loft, to use technology and a kind of modular manufactured panelized approach that we can sort of have a kind of universal system upon which we can apply any imaginable facade, including very large outdoor spaces with significant landscaping and trees, and sort of deliver it in a very predictable and systematic way. And Nick is going to get much more into the technology that we've integrated in the Nabr loft. We chose a sofa in San Jose as our starting point, not least because of the liveliness of both cultural and entertainment destinations that are beginning to pop up, and to see that we as Nabr can invest in making Sofa an even more enjoyable and more livable neighborhood. So we're starting with these three buildings, and the idea is to use the buildings themselves and their footprints to add to the public domain to create parks and plazas for the life of the neighborhood. So on one hand, like the basics of the system is this, the bones of the building always being the same, timber hybrid loft-like structure with view glass panels that are manufactured and clicked in place. And then on the outside, the actual perceived architecture of the buildings can be a variety of different choices of materials, of finishes, and of outdoor spaces that sort of end up creating the architecture of the building. So on the inside, the mass timber hybrid provides a very kind of warm and friendly environment for the base building itself. And then the large floor-to-ceiling sliding glass doors that we make with view glass have the incredible ability that they can go from almost completely transparent to almost fully shaded without ever interrupting the transparency and the views out, but significantly improving the environmental performance and diminishing thermal exposure and glare. So you have the mass timber hybrid structure, the massive panels of view glass that are applied, and then the big balconies. The balconies are 8 feet deep and up to 46 feet wide. So really like an additional living room that is taking advantage of the enjoyable climate of North California. And then of course, those balconies, their specific architecture and choice of material means that each building can be radically different in the exterior perception using different materials and different sort of geometries, even if the architecture on the inside remains exactly the same. So the mass timber, the best air filtration systems, the best water filtration systems, and of course the abundance of biophilia in terms of having very large landscaping on the balcony. Of course, the performance of the view glass means that not only is the building sustainable in terms of the environment, but it's also much more healthy for its inhabitants. The large operable windows allows for the light from the inside to spill effortlessly to the outside. And as you can see, the scale of those balconies means that you actually get an additional living room or two in addition to the space within your building. And then within the loft system, because it is a loft-like system with columns and beams and a core in the middle, we can actually have an incredible variety of layouts, which means that we can tailor, or you can tailor your home to exactly the kind of life you would like to live. And then, of course, once you move inside, you can see this kind of seamless continuity from the inside to the outside. We want to take advantage of the abundance of timber in the base structure of the building itself. And then also looking at flexibility, not only can you create visual and physical relationships from the inside to the outside, but also working in this kind of loft-like way, maybe some of the rooms and people can sort of choose to their preference. You can have sliding walls that can be translucent, again, allowing daylight and light to pass from one room to the other. And we're also offering a series of different designs, working with various interior architects and designers to create sort of different palettes that people can choose from, so they can really live in a completely tailored designer apartment to the designer and interior architect of their choices. So in this sense, we're trying to sort of really take advantage of the fact that we're creating a basic system that, almost like shelf space, you can populate this system with a variety of different layouts and different architectural styles to people's preferences. As as you move from the life inside the building to the life between the buildings on the ground plane around the footprints of our buildings. We're creating squares, various kinds of public spaces, public gardens, and streetscape. So if you see the ground floor of the two first buildings, we always face the public with public-oriented activities like retail or entrances, so you'll never see a dead backside. And as a landscape strategy, in the first buildings, we almost like dropped the life of the vertical element of the building down to create a variety of different intimate scales along the public realm. So a large plaza that can accommodate events and activities for the neighborhood, framed by trees, but also a series of booths ranging from the sort of almost intimate and romantic scale of a single booth for two to a booth the scale of a family to a large one for the community. So in that sense, we see Nabr as an opportunity to not only use the power of productization and technology to provide sustainable homes in an attainable way to the many in San Jose and beyond, but also as a way to sort of enhance and invest in the communities that we form part of. So on that sort of note, I would love to hand the microphone over to Nick, my other co-founder, who will talk about the tech behind the living experience of Nabr.
Great. Thanks, Bjarke. So I'll just take a few minutes just to talk about the technology, the in-home experience. Great architecture requires technology to create an equally great living experience. So I think my clicker works great. So in our early research, we're talking with consumers in terms of understanding their expectations for the technology inside their home. We heard this over and over again. There's a sense that technology moves very quickly. And if you put all this built-in devices, what happens when the technology becomes obsolete? And so that was one of the first problems we wanted to solve. And then let's take a look at some of the categories that we're working on. So first is connectivity. And then the next will be seamless coordination. So how do we make all the devices work together? And then how do we use this technology to help you understand what your environmental footprint is? And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about privacy and security. So, a home and what you expect in a home continues to evolve. And so a long time ago, before there was indoor plumbing, you had to go to the well to fetch water. And so a couple hundred years ago, you started seeing water showing up in standard homes. In the 1900s, people started expecting electricity. And in the 2000s, we expect internet. And so our most obvious offering to get started is the internet connectivity into the home. So because we think of this as a utility, it's going to be standard. So it's included in your monthly homeowner association dues. Will be high quality internet access. So it starts at 100 megabits and you can upgrade it via software at any time to as high as 10 gigabit service. In order to make sure that your internet never goes down, just like in a corporate setting, there will be multiple connections to the internet backbone. So if one service provider goes down, it'll basically default over to the second one. The entire unit will be sprinkled with, the building will be sprinkled with Wi-Fi access points. Last count, there's going to be about a dozen on every single level. So literally hundreds of these. And you'll be able to access the internet with your login anywhere within the. And then, as I said, the basic service is included. But for those consumers that insist on having their own dedicated fiber service, there will be that option as well. So we also thought a lot about how all the devices interoperate. And so as we've seen the transition over the last decade, everything that we touch is getting a little bit smarter. What that means basically is there's some kind of central computer that's able to interact with a consumer at a higher level. So you expect that with a smartphone. Instead of just making phone calls, you can send messages, you can take photos, you can share videos, you can download apps and make it add more capability to it. When Tesla first came out, they also, that transition of making cars smarter with an onboard computer also moved forward. So the navigation system and the radio and controlling air conditioning could all be centralized under one control panel, not these separate devices. And then finally, what's the expectation that we have for the home? So today, if you were to go to the Home Depot and bought all these different devices, you would probably spend a month trying to integrate all the pieces together, and it'd still be a very clumsy experience. So we think of this, the Nabr home as having kind of a central brain. And so there will be a dedicated computer that will basically connect to all of our built-in devices. And this is important because we allow data to be shared between the different devices so that they can coordinate their operations. So when you set a scene mode, for instance, you want to enjoy the sunset, for instance, it would automatically update all of the controls. So perhaps the blinds go up, the smart glass will brighten, the lights will dim, and so you can imagine all the things that need to get coordinated when you want to switch to scene mode. And so to make all this possible, the entire Nabr home will act as a single Matter device. So if you guys are not familiar, Matter is a new standard that's been in the works for the last 5 years, which enables interoperability between all the different smart home devices. And so, and it will appear to all of the other smart home devices that you want to potentially connect to. The Nabr home will be a single device with lots and lots of different capabilities. So the Nabr home is operating on the same common standard and platform as this emerging standard. This allows you to control your home using whatever voice assistant you'd like. So Silicon Valley is where all the big companies do all this R&D work. And so we have no allegiance to any one of them. You can bring your own device. And as long as it's Matter capable, you'll be able to access all the functions of your home through this interface. So just a couple points on sustainability. Bjarke mentioned that we are including dynamic glass as standard in the units. So this allows you to basically control the amount of daylight and therefore heat that goes into your home. Depending on the time of day and day of year, every panel of glass in the building is pre-programmed with the setting. It understands neighboring buildings. It understands the sun path. It also has a daylight sensor. And so it's constantly adjusting itself in order to give you the optimum control over the amount of sun that's reaching into your unit to control glare, and also while allowing you to provide a view to the outside. This allows you to stay cool. You save a lot of money on electricity bill. So we estimate you'll save 30 to 40% on energy bills with the view glass system. And it also lets you sleep better. We have also instrumented all the critical resources in the unit so that you understand how much you're consuming. So every water fixture will have a flow meter. So you could say this sink or this shower or this toilet is consuming this amount of water. So you could help your family conserve water. And then all the major electrical circuits will also include power monitoring. So you could see exactly which part of your home is consuming what amount of energy. The goal here is to provide awareness. and feedback, and so that we can make adjustments to how we live, but not necessarily dictate what you should be doing. And finally, by having smarts, we also have to be very careful about data privacy and security. So the in-unit computer will have a firewall which will regulate what data gets shared with any outside cloud provider. It also puts you in full control of all the data that's being collected on the device itself. So you can decide to share the data, or you can decide not to share the data and wipe it out. It's all under your control.
We care about being in the city, but we also care about generating value for our consumers. What we know is that urban infill is historically where we can create the most value. And we chose a market that not only has obviously great demand, but also a place that we can grow as a company, our consumers can grow, where there's great, amazing infrastructure all around. And, you know, between our 15, 20-year career, what we've seen happen in places like New York Meatpacking, Williamsburg, and others, we want to be able to offer consumers that opportunity to create value and live in a great neighborhood. This is why this is our buildings are also for ownership, where there's a limit to what we can do. We can deliver you the best product, so quality, but we can also give you an opportunity to grow in a community, and real estate value increases always on those two things more than anything. And San Jose is really the only place that's left in the valley for a true growth opportunity, with over $30 billion of investment happening with 1 square mile of our first project. So we went where we saw the best neighborhood that we can start with, and slowly we will grow to other locations. But it's not like you can build a 20-story building tomorrow in Palo Alto. We also made some choices that may not be obvious for other developers. We don't maximize our site. That also goes where you're looking at the ground plane, but a community of owners cannot be a 500-unit building. We want to build buildings that feel still intimate, where you get to know your neighbors and give you the views and the quality that you want. As I said earlier, every single part of this process, we're acting as a consumer product company, both for our partners, our capital, and most importantly, for our consumers.